Now 95, William Shatner confesses the truth about Star Trek on set. 95 years old. Most people that age are somewhere quiet, a garden, a porch, counting blessings, and steering clear of drama. But William Shatner? He has never done quiet a day in his life. The man who made Captain Kirk a household name is still talking, still working, and, as of right now, still very much alive, something he felt compelled to confirm himself just last September, when tabloids reported he'd been rushed to the hospital. Shatner jumped on Instagram and told the world, "I overindulged. I thank you all for caring, but I'm perfectly fine. Keep telling you all, don't trust tabloids or AI." Classic Shatner. Dramatic situation, punchline delivery. But behind the jokes is a man carrying decades of cold shoulders, sabotaged scenes, a feud so venomous it outlasted the show by 5 decades, a friendship that dissolved into heartbreaking silence, and a wife he couldn't save. Tonight, we're beaming straight into the chaos. Welcome aboard. This ride has no warp speed limit. CNN. The icon who never watched his own show. William Shatner is one of the most recognizable names in entertainment. Captain James Tiberius Kirk. The man who turned a low-budget 60s sci-fi show about space travel into a cultural religion that billions still worship today. Star Trek, the original series, ran from 1966 to 1969, and Shatner appeared in every single episode. Not most of them. Every single one. He then voiced Kirk in the animated series, starred in the first 7 Star Trek films, and became so embedded in that uniform that it was genuinely hard to tell where William Shatner ended and James T. Kirk began. But here's the twist: the man who built a dynasty out of playing Captain Kirk has never actually sat down and watched the original show. In a 2021 interview with People magazine, Shatner admitted he avoids watching himself on screen because he doesn't like the way he looks or what he does. The one Star Trek film he has seen? The Final Frontier, and only because he directed it. And yet, the post-Kirk resume is staggering. 2 Emmy Awards for Boston Legal. A spoken word album that critics eventually praised. A trip to actual space. And most recently, a brand new holiday comedy drama series called Family Tree, which Shatner co-created alongside Dancing with the Stars host Tom Bergeron, with Shatner starring and serving as executive producer. At 95, the man is not wrapping up. He's pitching new shows. So if William Shatner was so beloved by audiences, why did the people closest to him spend decades calling him an absolute nightmare? IMDb. The Star Trek set that was anything but one big happy family. The world of Star Trek is built on an idea of unity. Diversity. A crew of different species working together for the greater good of humanity. And yet, behind that message of togetherness, the on-set reality was reportedly shaped by one man's outsized ego. Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura, said Shatner had a habit of bossing around directors and guest stars, treating the show less like a team ensemble and more like his personal vehicle. He allegedly requested rewrites that shifted key dialogue away from other characters and onto himself. He didn't just want the best lines. He wanted all the lines. Walter Koenig, who played Chekhov, admitted he genuinely resented Shatner for his on-set behavior. James Doohan, beloved Scotty, had his own issues with Shatner for years, though they eventually made peace before Doohan's death in 2005. And then came Gene Roddenberry himself, the creator of the entire franchise, who reportedly wrote a letter to both Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, telling them they had, in his words, divided up the market on selfishness and egocentricity. The father of Star Trek had to send his lead actors a letter about being divas. On a show literally about cooperation and peace. In 1989, when Shatner directed Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, things hit a new low. He made a deliberate decision to cut a scene in which Sulu, George Takei's character, takes command of the ship. Takei believed it was pure, calculated sabotage, a move designed to keep the camera exactly where Shatner preferred it, on himself. The feud that refuses to die. George Takei has been telling anyone who will listen since the 90s that William Shatner is one of the most difficult human beings he has ever worked with. The origins go back to the 60s, when Takei wrote in his memoir that Shatner would routinely ignore him between takes, not on bad days, but as a pattern of deliberate social cruelty. That resentment simmered for decades, then the Star Trek V scene poured accelerant all over it. The moment that turned this into a genuine pop culture spectacle came in 2008, when George Takei married his longtime partner Brad Altman. He invited the entire original cast except, he claims, Shatner. Or rather, Shatner insists he was the only cast member deliberately excluded. Shatner, never one to process things privately, posted a YouTube video calling the alleged snub a psychosis. Takei responded that an invitation had absolutely been sent, and that Shatner simply never replied. 2 stories. 1 feud. 0 resolution. By 2015, Takei had stopped sugarcoating it entirely, calling Shatner an egocentric, self-involved prima donna in the New York Times. Then, in a 2023 London interview, Takei called Shatner a cantankerous old fossil, adding that all of his co-stars had problems with him and suggesting that even Leonard Nimoy privately expressed irritation with Shatner behind the scenes. Wikipedia. And yet, and this is where it gets genuinely strange, in 2025, Takei posted a public birthday message for Shatner, writing, "Just days ago, Bill Shatner celebrated his 94th birthday, wishing him continued health and happiness. Live long and prosper, my friends." 50 years of public bitterness, and suddenly a birthday wish. Whether that signals a thaw or just the passage of time doing what time does, nobody knows. But there is another co-star whose silence hurt Shatner far more than Takei's anger ever did. Wikipedia. The boy from Montreal who stumbled into stardom. Here's something people don't often consider when they picture William Shatner. He was born not in Hollywood, not in New York, but in Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, Montreal, on March 22, 1931. He was raised in a conservative Jewish family, the son of Anne and Joseph Shatner. His grandparents had fled from Ukraine and Lithuania, searching for something safer, something more stable. Young William found his way to the Montreal Children's Theatre, discovered that performing felt like breathing, and decided to chase it alongside a Bachelor of Commerce from McGill University. Yes, Captain Kirk has a commerce degree. Before he graduated, he was working as a camp counselor at a B'nai B'rith summer camp, where among his campers was a teenage Holocaust survivor who didn't speak English. Shatner made it his personal mission to help the boy learn the language, patient, kind, in a way that people who later accused him of being impossible might find hard to reconcile. That empathy was real. It just got buried, sometimes, under decades of ego and celebrity. His big theatrical break came in 1956 at the Stratford Shakespeare Festival, understudying Christopher Plummer in Henry V. When Plummer went down with kidney stones, Shatner got 3 hours' notice. He went on. He didn't just survive. Plummer himself later wrote that he knew, watching Shatner that night, that this young man was going to be a star. Then came 1966, a ship called the Enterprise, and everything changed forever. Leonard, Naren, and the kind of loss that doesn't leave you. Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner. Spock and Kirk. For most of their adult lives, something like brothers, complicated, competitive, deeply bonded brothers who brought out both the best and worst in each other. The rivalry was real. So was the love. On convention tours in later years, the two men genuinely seemed to enjoy each other. There was warmth there. History. Decades of shared insanity. And then it ended in the most painful way imaginable. In 2016, Shatner revealed that despite their long and affectionate relationship, he and Nimoy had not spoken to each other in the 5 years before Nimoy's death in February 2015. No fight. No explanation. Just silence. Shatner said he wrote Nimoy a heartfelt letter, telling him he loved him. He never got a reply. To this day, he says he doesn't know what he did wrong. He says he is still hurt by that silence. A friendship that spanned half a century, ending not with a bang but with an unanswered phone and a letter that arrived too late. Wikipedia. And then there was Naren. In August 1999, Shatner's third wife, a woman he described as his soulmate, was found dead in the swimming pool of their home. She was 40 years old. An autopsy revealed she had been drinking heavily and taken sleeping pills. She had dived into the pool, hit her head, and lost consciousness in the water. Shatner had known about her alcoholism before they married. He thought love was enough. She went to rehab 3 times. She wasn't ready to stop. And one August night, she drowned. Years later, on his 2004 album Has Been, he recorded a spoken word piece called What Have You Done, a direct, shattering reckoning with the night he found her. He said he couldn't get through it in one take. From laughingstock to astronaut to whatever comes next. In 1968, in the middle of Star Trek's original run, Shatner recorded The Transformed Man, a collection of spoken-word pop song interpretations delivered with such theatrical intensity that audiences weren't sure whether to laugh or be confused. They mostly laughed. For years, the album sat in the cultural imagination somewhere between embarrassment and punchline. And Shatner's response? He leaned in. He found better collaborators, doubled down on the absurdity, and in 2004 released Has Been with producer Ben Folds, a sharp, self-aware, emotionally devastating album that critics actually praised. Then came October 2021. Blue Origin. Jeff Bezos's rocket. And William Shatner, at 90 years old, became the oldest person ever to reach space. When he landed and climbed out of the capsule, he was visibly fighting tears, describing what he called the overview effect, that profound shift in perception astronauts talk about when they look down at Earth and understand, in their gut, how fragile and precious and alone we all are. Takei, predictably, took a shot online. Shatner, from orbit-adjacent glory, barely flinched. Now, at 95, the pace has not slowed. Shatner is working on a new book called William Shatner, and You, collecting fan stories and tributes from celebrities and the public, expected out in late 2026. He just officially passed the torch on his legendary Priceline negotiator role, training comedian Randall Park as his successor in a campaign that involved karate, aerial stunts, and Shatner in a suit doing drills. And then there's Family Tree, his new dramedy series, which he didn't just star in but co-created. At 95. Co-created. Yahoo Men's Journal. For 35 consecutive years, he has shown up for the Hollywood Charity Horse Show, raising millions for children's charities and veterans organizations. And after his divorce from his fourth wife Elizabeth Anderson Martin was finalized in 2020, the two have since reconciled, with Shatner referring to her once again as his wife. Wikipedia. He is a brilliant, difficult, funny, deeply wounded, deeply generous, occasionally insufferable man who has had the very specific experience of becoming a symbol and spent the rest of his life trying to figure out who he is underneath it. He lost a wife he loved and couldn't save. He lost a best friend to silence he never understood. He made an album everyone laughed at and another one everyone praised. He went to space at 90. He raised millions for charity for 35 consecutive years in a row. And when tabloids reported he died, he got on Instagram and quoted Mark Twain. He is 95 years old. He is still here.